Hey guys, welcome all. We'll get started. Give some 2-3 minutes. Hey guys, welcome all. Let's get started for today. So let me introduce myself first. So my name is Vikas. I work as a senior cloud architect in one of the big four companies in Bangalore. And I have some 14 years of IT experience where I have some 7 to 8 years of experience in cloud domain. Okay. So today we have gathered here to do a brief discussion on what is VPC and how does a VPC works like. So I'm having a thought that you know a little about cloud and you want to get more knowledge how this cloud thing works. So a quick confirmation from all of you, if you're able to see my screen and hear me loud and clear. If that's the case, we can get started for today. Yes, great. Fine. So what is VPC and why are we talking about VPC is what we will be discussing today. Now, when you talk about cloud, okay, one of the prime concerns which most of the customers have when they are about to migrate or on a process of migration is that how secure is the cloud? Now, security is a combined responsibility of the customer and AWS. Now, AWS from its end has done all the best practices to make your data application secure on cloud. So today we will be talking about what is VPC. When I say subnet, what do I mean by that? What are the components of VPC? What happens when I talk about default VPC and what is a non-default VPC? What is VPN? VPN, most of you might have worked with that. And then it's what is direct connect. And finally, we go with a hands-on session. So when I have to start a project, the first thing which I will be talking about is a landing zone. Landing zone is nothing but a place where I'm going to put all my components. Suppose I have a data component, I have a database, I have a application, I have front end, back end, everything I'll put in that particular network. And that particular network is known as landing zone for me. Now, landing zone creation is actually, if you talk about an on-prem application, landing zone creation is a big task because there are a lot of hardware and network related things which has to be taken care. And it also takes a good amount of time to get this thing done. You neither have to make your application very much secure in such a way that it becomes complex for the users to work, nor you have to keep it loose that any other guy can come and disturb your existing setup. So we will talk about VPC, which is a cloud provider networking solution, which will help us to get our work done. Now, this program, this community program is brought to you by this Edureka, which is a pioneer in online teaching platform. It has a lot of courses which are available on this platform. What you have to do is you have to enroll. Now, this meetup is a community program, so you don't have to do any payment or anything like that. You can very well interact with people like us who are working there in the industry for a long time now. And you also get to know what is the trend, what should I learn, how should I learn, where should I learn, all these things. Now, why should one go with Edureka? Now, Edureka, as I told you, is a pioneer when it comes to teaching or online training platform. It has instructor-led live sessions like how we are having now. We will be having sessions where a well experienced guy like me will come and he will teach you, okay, this is this, this is this, this is how you work. So he will be able to answer things like why, what, and how. Means why should I use a VPC? How to use a VPC, and what are the things I should take care when I am dealing with VPC. Then you have 24/7 doubt clearing sessions where we will be talking about your doubts. When you do hands-on, you may encounter problems, and then we will be talking about those, how to handle them, how to work with them. And then at the end of the course, you get a course completion certificate. This course completion certificate will definitely do a CV ad, and you will be a good choice for any company for recruiters which are looking for trained professionals. Then you get a lot of project case studies, hands-on assignments, which will further enhance your skills, and it will again give you in-depth knowledge about the topic, and it will give you experience. So tomorrow when you go for an interview and the interviewer says, tell me something about your real life challenges which you have faced while you were doing the project. How did you overcome those challenges? So you will be able to answer them, and you get 30 hours of live training. Now, there are batches which are filling fast. Now, this is old data. So there are batches which is filling fast in the month of September is almost done. So October, November, there are batches. You can go ahead and update yourself from the portal, and you're interested, you can enroll for the weekday or a weekend class as per your availability. Now, as we are saying that VPC is a networking component, it is a logically isolated network, okay? And that's why it is known as virtual network, because it is present on cloud. I cannot physically go and touch the hardware, but I can use all the features of this hardware. So it will give you all the benefits of traditional network. And also on top of that, you can have advanced features of cloud. It will give you access to all your IPv4 and IPv6 types of applications or applications which need IPv4, IPv6 type of connectivity to connect. It is scalable in nature. Now, one of the biggest problem with the network which is there on premises is that it is not scalable. If it is meant for 100 customers per minute, it will operate with 100 customers per minute. If you put 150 customers, there are high chances that particular hardware will crash. And you get a complete control of the network, starting from choosing the IP range till you deploy the application, how the connection will go through. All these things can be taken care when you deal with VPC. Now, this is a typical diagram which tells you about VPC. Now, when we create a VPC, automatically few things will get created. Like we will create, there is something called availability zone. And based on that, there will be subnet. Now, subnet is a subnetwork. Now, if you see the VPC, a VPC will have a bigger range of IP addresses. Let me say it has some 65K IP addresses. But this 65K IP address, let me say, belongs to the entire organization. In the organization, there will be small departments, like there is a finance department, there is an admin department, housekeeping department, research department. So they can distribute this IP range into small chunks. And each chunk is actually known as a subnet. Okay, subnet or subnetwork. Inside this subnet or subnetwork, you will actually find your EC2 instance, which is a compute component. And this will help you to install your application. So EC2 is a virtual machine. On this virtual machine, you can install your application and you can run them on a cloud environment. Now, the most important thing is how will it prevent bad traffic to come inside and it will allow the good traffic to come inside. So here, let me say you're logged in via your laptop or a desktop, you're having the browser, you just opened the browser, and via internet, you come and hit the first wall of defense, which is your internet gateway. So any traffic which is coming from internet has to pass through this internet gateway. Then it will go inside where there is a router which has a routing logic, and it will route the traffic as per the routing logic. So if the traffic is supposed to go here, it will put it here. If it is supposed to go here, it will put it here. It also acts as a kind of load balancer, you can say, where it is pushing the traffic as per the routing logic. So this is something which we are willing to create, or we will be creating in our coming modules. In the first place, why should I use a VPC? What are the benefits of VPC? So we just now told that if you are having an EC2 instance, you will have security group, and this security group is actually inside VPC, which takes care of all the incoming and outgoing traffic. Suppose you're running a website, so you will always want that good traffic or genuine buyers should come to your online portal and buy the content, not fake users which are time passers, which are simply blocking your service. So you should not, or you're looking to identify such customers who are genuine buyers rather than people who are just increasing the headcount. So it says you can use static IPv4 address, which has been assigned, or you can also use dynamic IP address. Then it says it has a layer of network resources. It's a single tenant hardware, and it is available for EC2 instances. Here you have ACL. ACL is access control list. Now let me say the request is coming from 5 different sources. If I want, I can block one of the sources and say I don't want any traffic coming from there. Then you can control both your inbound and outbound traffic, means what traffic is coming inside and what traffic is going outside. You can control them using your VPC. And you have at the end something called network interface, or I will also say elastic network interface. So whenever you launch a EC2 instance, you get a IP address, you get a public and a private IP address. So this is actually your network interface, how to connect via network to these servers. So our EC2 will need a security group, it will need a VPC, and VPC will take care of all the networking related issues. Now, when you start your work, Okay, let me just show you all these things in a demo so that it is very easy for you to understand rather than me talking. So let me just come here and log into my cloud account. So this is my cloud account. Okay. Now here, if you see, I'm logged into Mumbai, but suppose I was logged into North Virginia. I have done some work on AP South 1, which is Mumbai. That's why I don't want to take you there. So I am here right now in North Virginia. And here, if I go to the networking component, which is VPC, you will see that I don't have any custom made VPC right now. Now, there will be one VPC by default, which is always there. And that's true for all the regions. So as of now, I'm in US East 1. If you click on this, all the regions apart from Mumbai, where I have created one, you can see all of them have one security group by default. It is already there. So we can use this by default security group. But there is a small problem in this security group. If you open this security group, and if you go inside this security group, okay, you see CIDR. CIDR is the IP range. So they have given 172.31.00.16. Now, how to read this? What is this? What IP range is this? So for that, you can come here and say, I'm looking for CIDR.xyz. And you can give this range. So this is 172.31.00. So if you use this CIDR range, you primarily get 172.31.0.0 by 16, which is basically this. And here you get 65,536 IP addresses. These are the range of IP addresses which you get starting from, this is the first one, and this is one is the last one. So VPC, bare minimum, the basic thing, it provides you a range of IP addresses. Now, this range of IP addresses are programmed to work in parallel, means they can work independently. Now, if I go back to my VPC diagram, one second. Wait a second. This is the VPC diagram we are talking about. Yeah. So here I just now showed you the VPC. Now let's talk about this VPC subnet. So if I come to the next section, it talks about subnet. Now subnet corresponds to the availability zone. So if you see here in North Virginia, there are 6 availability zones starting from US East 1A to US East 1F. And hence there are 6 subnets. And each subnet has a smaller IP range as compared to what we had already picked up. So subnet, as I told you, is a subnetwork which will help you to connect to your stuff. Then you have this route table, which will help you to route the traffic. Basically, whenever some traffic is coming from internet, where it should go, where it should land is what is written in your route table. Then you have internet gateway, which will by default allow all the traffic to come inside. Then you have a lot of things, but here I'm interested in security group. So if you go to any security group, so this is a default security group. So if you go inside this default security group, you will see in inbound, it is saying all traffic. Also in outbound, it is saying all traffic. So if it is all traffic, it means anybody can go inside, anybody can come outside. And this is not what is acceptable in production kind of environment. And this is a primary reason why we do not use the default VPC, rather we use the VPC which we have created. So any VPC which we create, we can give any name to that, but in general, we say it is a custom VPC. Custom VPC in the sense it is created by the user, whereas the default VPC is always having those problems of opening it to the open internet. So always remember whether you want a default VPC or a permanent or a temporary VPC. So your call, which one would you like to go with? But definitely from company perspective, I should have a custom VPC where I will provide my own IP range and my own set of attributes. So let's go ahead and see how can I do that. So if you come here towards the end, you can see this VPC dashboard, VPC. So this is already there. This is the default one. So just let me give a name. Okay, now I'm going to create my own. So here you'll find an option. You can say, I want to create a VPC. You can say, I want to create a VPC only, or you can say, I can create VPC plus more. So when you say VPC plus more, there are many options which come here. And as and when you make changes, this will change or it will get applied. So the first thing is that what all things are there. So if you see, I have a VPC, which we are already talking about. Then next to that, we have subnet, which we have spoken about. Then we have route tables and route tables. After that, we have network ID, where we have an internet gateway. You can see here, internet gateway is there, route table is there. Now, if you want, you can make changes to this. So here, the name you see, project-VPC. Now, let me say I want to change this name. So I'll say demo VPC. This is your CIDR block range. So 10.0.0.0.16 means how many IP addresses are there? 10, 0. So 10.0.0.16 means you have got altogether 65,536 IP addresses, out of which 10 and then followed by 3 zeros is the starting range, and 10, 0, 255, 255 is the last range. Here you can create any number of sub networks. Okay. Are you showing anything outside the PowerPoint? I think no, I'm just talking about the PowerPoint itself. But let me just come out of the PowerPoint. Now, if you are able to see, I'm showing you a website where I'm trying to tell you that there is a IP range which we are talking about. Okay. Then I will come to this diagram where I say that I have a region in my, I have chosen as US East 1. Then I am going to create a VPC. Now to create a VPC, I will log into my AWS account. So I have logged into my AWS account. This is my AWS account. I'm here in North Virginia. And then in VPC, I will say there is a VPC already present here. The name is default VPC. But the problem with this guy is that if I go to the security group, this is the security group. So if I come here, I can see it is all traffic. So all traffic means anybody can come inside, anybody can go in outside, anybody in the sense, any traffic, which is not what I want. So I would not go with this. I would rather create my own networking component. So if I have to create my own networking component, I will go all the way up, or you can go from here also. And here I will say, I want to create a VPC. When you create a VPC, a structure like this opens where you say, what do you want? Only the VPC or VPC plus the other components. So the other components are your subnet, internet gateway, route table, all those things is what you have to provide here. So I say VPC and more. What the name would you like to give? So let me say, I will say demo VPC. Then it is talking about the IP range, and you can see it is saying you have got 65,536 IP addresses. Out of that, if you want, you can go with IPv6. Now, what is IPv6? Now, actually, when we started with internet, we had altogether 2 to the power 32 IP addresses. But as and when people started growing, number of laptops started growing, people use more desktop, people use mobile phones. So all the device needs IP address. And so we are not able to have more IPv4 addresses, or it will soon get exhausted. So companies thought, let's come up with a new way of giving IP range where we will be using IPv6. In IPv6, we have 2 to the power 128 IP ranges, and it includes not only numbers, but also alphabets and others. So IPv6 advanced feature, you have to buy IPv6 address and you have to use it. So as of now, again, we are not trying to get into that. We are simply avoiding that. Then tenancy. Now tenancy can be default or dedicated. The word is very clear enough to understand. It is dedicated means you own the hardware kind of, and you pay for the entire hardware. But if you go with shared, you are sharing the hardware and hence you will be paying less. How many availability zones you want? So for me, let me say I want only 2. Okay. Or let me say only 1 I want. Now you can see here this diagram got refined a little bit. Then you can come here and say how many public subnets you want. So public subnet is nothing but it has internet connectivity. Okay, so this is my public subnet. Then it says how many private subnet you want. Again, I have told 1. So you can see here subnet, 1 public, 1 private. If you want, you can increase or decrease the number. Then this is the IP range which the subnet gets, means the smaller range. Finally, we have created a private subnet, right? But how will we connect to internet? Because I'm saying a private subnet does not have internet connectivity. So in that case, I will try to push or create a NAT gateway. So here it says NAT gateway will be used to provide internet connectivity to the VPC, which is there in the private subnet. And that's it. You can come here and say, I want to create. Now, along this, you will see your internet gateway, your route table, all these things will get created, which we were trying to create some time back. So let me come to the slide. So this is the entire infrastructure which I created with a click of button. I went ahead and I gave so few details, and now I have this entire infrastructure with all the components up and running. So the first component here is your EC2. And we have already spoken about your benefits of default VPC, which is like you don't have to do any headache. You can simply get started. Yes, security wise, it is not that great, but at least to get started, security group with default attributes is a good option. Then in this only, there are a lot of stuffs like ENI, Elastic Interface Module, and this Elastic ENI or Elastic Network Interface Module will give you the networking address. Okay, the public and the private IP address. Egress on internet gateway. Egress is the traffic which will go outside. Route table, I have already told, it will take care of your traffic which is coming inside. Then you have VPC peering. Now think like you have created a VPC, okay, and in your company only there is another team which has created a VPC. So obviously you both can connect to each other. You are in the same AWS account with same networking details. So probably you want to share some data. So you can share the data by doing a VPC peering. Now this VPC peering can be done at a very small scale, like 2 VPC, 3 VPC within the organization, within the project. It sounds great, but as and when you have more bigger infrastructure, you cannot go with all these things. So you will have to go with either you have to do a direct connect. The direct connect is from, let me say, server A to server B. I have created high speed optical fiber network, which will help me to get the content from my location to that location. That can be done. That's called direct connect. Then you have VPN, where you connect from, like many of us have used it also. VPN is like from my laptop, I will connect to a server which is somewhere in US, something like that. Then every time when you start and stop, your IP may change, IPv4 address. So we deal with IP, or we say it's a static IP. And at the end of the day, if I want to know which traffic is going where, I will deal with VPC endpoint. Now, either you can create everything manually and then link everything together, or you can use the methodology which I used, where I put everything together and I created everything. So if I have to create a IP range, The first thing is I need to have that IP range. Now that IP range I've just now showed you, it is something like this 172.31.0.16, where you have a range of IP address. And I told you, you can go to cider.xyz and from there you can get that particular range. Obviously, if your company has a specific requirement, like I need this IP range only, then they have to buy that range. And this range is decided by backslash. So if you say backslash 56 means you have a bigger range. If you say backslash 24, it means you have a smaller range. Now, I told you that the IPv6 is something which you definitely need to work with in near future. If not now, but you will have to work with this in near future. The reason is that the IPv4 addresses which we have is getting exhausted. Okay, so this diagram shows you how we can distribute our entire network chunk. So I have a big chunk where I took some 65,536 IP addresses. Now let me say I will distribute like some 200, 500 IP addresses among my different teams. So there is a technical team, there's a marketing team, there's a HR team. So like that, I am distributing the IP address. And this is known as subnet mask. So in subnet mask, you are distributing your IP addresses among this thing. Now, how to calculate? You can either calculate it manually or do it via cider.xyz. So cider.xyz is a website which does these things for you automatically. Then this is the difference between IPv4 and IPv6, where IPv4 is the older one, IPv6 is the newer one, and it will support all the modern networking stuffs. So once you are ready with your IP range, you're ready with the distribution of that IP range, you can create a public or a private subnet. Now, private subnet, as the word suggests, it is private. It does not allow any internet connectivity. If you have to push an internet connectivity, then you will have to use NAT gateway. And public, as the word suggests, it allows network connectivity and can easily be used for any networking internet connection. Obviously, the router will route the traffic. Then comes our internet gateway. So any traffic which is coming, let me say you want to log into amazon.com. So amazon.com is placed on the internet. The website is over internet. So you will reach the EC2 instance via network, via internet. So always this internet gateway plays a very important role in making sure that the traffic reaches the required server. So that can be done using internet gateway. Then route table, as I told you, you decide where the traffic should go. The traffic originated on internet, now where it should land. So that has to be done in routing table. If you see here, there is a logic given that any request which is generating from 172.31.0016 should go local, means within the VPC it should go. Then in the routing table, it also acts as a load balancer where you decide which traffic should go ahead, which traffic should be blocked, like that. Then once this is done, you're all set to create VPC, and you can very well create your VPC. While creating VPC, you can also create one more item called security group. So in security group, I showed you the default security group where you went ahead and you had that all traffic thing. And I told you, because there is all traffic thing, it is not a good option to take this option. So now I will create my own security group with my own attributes, and I will say, okay, this traffic is allowed to come inside, this traffic is not allowed, this traffic has to be stopped. Okay, any malicious activity, you can go ahead and deny the traffic to come inside your network. So like this, you create several walls of security. So inbound, which traffic will come inside your network? Outbound, which traffic will go outside your network? Now, NACL and security group, they almost do the same thing. Okay, they almost do the same thing, yet they are different. Now in NACL, you will see there is a option to allow and deny. Means you can allow a traffic or you can deny a traffic. But the major difference in security group is there is no provision to deny a traffic. If you have added it, it is allowed. If you have not added it, it is not allowed. Then we spoke about NAT. So while speaking about NAT, I told I have a private subnet. In private subnet, I don't have internet connectivity. Now I need internet because I have to update the application or whatever requirement I have. So in that case, definitely you have to provide a NAT device. So earlier we had something called NAT gateway, but earlier we had NAT instance. But the problem with NAT instance is that it is like one device, and if that device fails, everything fails. So now we use NAT gateway, which is highly available, scalable, and it can give you speed to 45 Gbps, which is a very great speed. And it is also compatible with IPv6. So here you can see there is your public subnet. In your public subnet, you have put NAT gateway, and this NAT gateway can now connect you to your private subnet. So this is a way to connect your public content or to connect your private content to the outside world without exposing it to the outside world. So NAT gateway, modern one, NAT instance, the older one. Now, I told that there are chances that you have created something and you would like to share it with your colleagues, but the colleagues are in a different team. They're using a different network, different IP range. So in that case, I will need something called VPC peering. Now, VPC peering happens in three phases. First, if you want a VPC peering, you initiate a request. So let me say the orange one is the one who wants the request. So it is initiating the request. Once the request is initiated, it has to be accepted by the other guy. Once the acceptance is done, then in step 3, we create rules, routing rules, and now the VPC is connected. Followed by this, we have VPN and direct connect. Now, anytime when you want to transfer a huge amount of data, okay, you want to transfer a huge amount of data. The problem is that this can be done over the network, but if you do it over the network, it will take time, it will eat up your speed. So you don't want to do all these things. So in that case, you go with direct connect. So direct connect majorly is used for one-time data transfer. Okay. Yes, it is a costly service, and you should be very careful when you're using such service, but it is giving you a very good connection. And obviously, high speed optical fiber network of AWS is being used, and you can use 10 Gbps speed to transfer the data, which is very good. Now, most of us might have worked with this VPN thing. So let me say my client is sitting in US, I am in India. So I would like to connect to his network. So if I try to connect directly over the internet, it may lead to some security issues. So we go with a secure network or a private network, and that is called as VPN, virtual private network. So when to use VPN, when to use direct connect. So direct connect, the setup itself will take 2 months time. But once the setup is done, the speed is very stable. But if you want an immediate setup and you want to connect the data where the speed is not that big concern, you should go with VPN. And finally, this entire thing is followed by hands-on. In the hands-on, we went ahead and we created a VPC. So you can see here, we created a VPC. All these items got created. So now I can go to this place and say view VPC. And if I come here to VPC, I can see my demo VPC is ready. This demo VPC has the IP range which I have given. And if I go inside this, I can see it has the CIDR range which I gave. And I would also want to know where is my other components. So let me take this number. This number will help me. Subnet. Keep it here. Sorry, made a small mistake, added one extra space. So you can see I have a private subnet, I have a public subnet. Okay. Now, if you talk about the private subnet, let me just pull this up, or I can pull it from here. Now, if this is my public subnet, okay. So in public subnet, if you go to sharing route table, you can see this guy has a access to the outside world via internet gateway, and this is my internet gateway. But if I go back, one second, I go back, private subnet, okay, and here if I go to route, one second, route, here it should have no connectivity to the outside world. See here, there is this guy, PL something. So this is my NAT gateway, and NAT gateway is connecting me to the outside world, not the direct internet. So this is how we work with networking. So this is a very basic setup which I have done. And the best thing is that this network can be used when I'm creating a EC2. Suppose I'll go with EC2. Now here, when I'm creating an instance, as of now, I don't have anything. So I'll create an instance. Here, whatever you want, you can say my web server. Here you can choose any operating system of your choice. Let me say I'll go with Amazon Linux 2. Here instance type is okay. Key pair you can use one. Here is the important section, the networking section. Now you decide what kind of networking are you going to use. Will you go with the default network, or will you go with the network which you have created? So here you can use your subnet. So by default, it is picking the private one. You can say, I would like to use the public subnet. And you can say, when you use public subnet, auto assign IP address must be enabled. Okay. And then you can use your existing security group, or you can create a new security group, and that's it. Your work is done. You can create a web server. You can install all your software there, and your data plus your application is secure when you create your own virtual private network. And once your work is done, you come back to VPC and you have all the options of deleting it. So why deletion is important? Once my work is done, it's a good practice to delete it, because at the end of the day, I don't want to spend money on the stuff which I'm not using at all. So I will simply come here and say delete, and it says, if you delete, all these items will get deleted. Are you okay with that? If you're okay, simply come here and say delete, work done. So it is created in a flash. It gives you all the options which you want, and it is also deleted in a flash once your work is complete. Okay. Now that is all what I have from my side for today. Now I will open it for questions. If anyone has any, we can take them. Okay. So I will drop now. I don't see any questions. See you again, guys. Happy learning.